How would you like to help people by asking people questions? Instead of telling people what to do, but just helping people figure things out by themselves just by asking a few questions. So, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Unconscious Communication Secrets. My name is Munir, and I want to welcome you to this video. Today, we're talking about how you can uncover information, how you can use the power of questions, and how you can use something called the meta model. Sorry, I'm just pressing a couple of buttons because I haven't shared my screen. There we go. Okay, cool. So before I get into that, I want to give you a quick analogy. Now, let's say you are going to go and buy a book, or you're going to pick a book to read, right? Like, so you're in the shop, and what do? You kind of go to the back and you read the back of the book. Now, when you read the back of the book, you get a fair bit of information, but at the same time, it doesn't give you all the information. If you want to know truly what the book is about, if you want to dive in deep, you have to open the book, you have to read the book. Just because you have the back of the book, it doesn't mean you have all the information at your fingertips. It doesn't mean that you know it all. It doesn't mean that you're able to use that information clearly. And that's the same when it comes to our communication. When people communicate, it's like initially when people communicate, it's like they give us the back of the book version. And in order for you to use people's communication effectively, especially when it comes to helping people solve problems, etc., you need more of that. You need more information in order to help them further. So we're going to be talking about how you can uncover information, and this is essentially a way to question effectively, and a way for you to give people help without just saying to people, okay, you need to do this. Because when you tell people what to do, they don't want to do anything. But when you question, you ask the right sort of questions, people are going to be more motivated to take action. People are going to uncover and solve the problems themselves versus you telling them. And just telling people never uncovers the issue. Also, you don't have enough information to help anybody half the time. And so this model of questioning allows you to do just that. So first of all, I want to say hi to MJ. What's up, my man? Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And always a pleasure to see you, MJ. I truly appreciate all your consistent support, man. And thanks for the constant comments. So, all right, let's get going. Now, this happens in natural life. Like we do this naturally already. Like, for example, when we talk about the descriptions, the book, the webinar, like a webinar, etc. When you look at a webinar, what is contained on the about page before you register for the webinar, you need more information to actually utilize the information. Or if a kid comes and says, oh, I got in trouble at school today, that is the beginning. If you just leave, no one ever leaves it at that. Like, okay, you got in trouble at school today. Okay, fine. Like, what specifically happened? What did you do? Who did what? Well, you need more information. And so you ask questions to discover more information so that you know how to act or react. Or a detective, if you imagine a detective doesn't just sort of go, okay, tell me your story, and then just listen to the story and then go, okay, fine, move on to the next person. They need to ask questions, that you need to uncover stuff so that you can utilize that information more accurately. So let me give you a quick history. How did this model come about? So the model that I'm sharing with you, and I'm not going to go into too much detail today, I'm just giving you an introduction to what the model is. It's called the meta model. Now, so how it came about, in the 70s, there were a handful of successful therapists. So you can imagine, like, there's all these psychiatrists, all these psychotherapists that basically what they do is they treat their client for years and years and years, and people just keep going back to the same psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist sits there and goes, tell me about your mother, or something like that. Or What? Yes, let's go back to the incident. Tell me about it again. And all this person does for like years and years is literally go back and talk about the problem. And the psychiatrist at the end says, yes, you're a manic depressive, or whatever they say to the person, gives them an identity but doesn't solve the issue. And guess what? The psychiatrist now has a customer for life because he's not solving the issue. Anyhow, so that's what was happening in the 70s. But however, there was a handful of therapists that were getting results, and they were getting results very, very quickly. And they were very famous because, like, literally they would work with clients and they would get a result very quickly, as in they would solve the problem. And so two people by the name of John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they're living in California, and what they started doing was they started studying these very, very successful therapists. So in this picture, there's a guy by the name of Fritz Perls, who was the founder of Gestalt therapy, and Virginia Satir, who was a family therapist. Now, these guys, so John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they're the guys that created NLP, by the way. They and this is how they created NLP. They went and studied all these people that were getting results with their clients, and they were getting results very, very quickly. And so they studied, what are they doing? What are they saying? What are they doing? What questions are they asking? What issues are people having? So Bandler and Grinder just studied all these guys and said, okay, there's a pattern here. There's a pattern here. And what they did was they started to codify this pattern. They started to make this pattern into a model that people could use. But what they started to realize is that everybody, like what was happening is, us as people generally, we could be at the same event. Like, let's say me and you could be at the same event, but we could have different perceptions of the same event. And they were like, why is that? Like, how are people going through the same experiences but coming out with different expectations, different models of the world, etc.? And the reason, and then what they found is, like, it comes down to a couple of things, because in any given moment, we're taking in 2 million bits of information, from everything that you can feel. Now, you might think, well, I'm taking in 2 million bits of information per second. How is that possible? Like, in terms of everything that you can see around you, all the tiny details, every little feeling, every little sound that is happening, the beating of your heart is like feeling the beating of the heart. That's a sensation. But our mind can't cope with all the raw data that's coming in. And so in order to cope, your mind has to do three things. It has to delete information, it has to distort information, and it has to generalize. So what do I mean by that, right? When it deletes, like, literally, you can't remember every little bit of information that's coming in every second, so it deletes all the bits that aren't important to you, okay? So we have to delete loads of bits of information. Distort. Have you ever had a friend that sort of tells you a story and they go, yeah, man, and it was like the longest thing, and like they exaggerate and this and that. But we have to distort in order to, once again, cope. And then generalize, right? Every single time you walk up to a door that you've never been through, but you know exactly what to do, you can use that door because your mind generalizes. It says, this is a door. I know how doors work. And so I have to, like, this is what I do. Like, you don't have to learn how to use a door every single time you see a door, because your mind generalizes. A door is a door, right? So our minds, in order to cope, do three things. They delete information, they distort information, and they generalize. However, sometimes when our mind does these things, it causes problems. So, if you're deleting information, if you're distorting information, if you're generalizing information, like, I'm always with you, that may not be a problem when you're saying something to someone like that, but are you always with a person? No, you're not. Like, that's a generalization, right? So what they found is that when therapists were helping people these therapists like Virginia Satir, etc., when what they found is they were always asking questions that uncovered information about our deletions, our distortions, and our generalizations. And by uncovering that information, we were able to get the pure experience, to solve problems, to get, like when a detective has loads more information that people have forgotten, etc. When you have loads of different eyewitnesses, etc., then you can piece together the information. And by asking the right questions, people could piece the information together and solve their own issues. So, and just so you know that literally this is how NLP was actually created. The first book that John Grinder and Dr. Richard Bandler wrote was Structure of Magic. After they studied these people, it became very famous, and this is what launched the whole science of NLP, this is how we use our brains. So I'll give you a couple of examples of this. I'm not going to go into the model in great detail because it's such a big model, but I wanted to start a video that just explains some of the structure of this model. But before I do that, Iveta, thanks again for coming on live. I appreciate you. And yeah, always a pleasure to see you. And hopefully you're finding this stuff very useful. So all right, cool. So in today's video, I'm going to give you 3 examples. One of a deletion, of a distortion, and a generalization, just so you see how people cause problems for themselves, etc. And in the next couple of videos, I'll be talking about more as well. So let's talk about a deletion. One of the ways that we delete is something called a comparative deletion. So here in this example, my artistic skills are the worst. What is happening when someone says something like this is that in their mind, they're comparing themselves to somebody else or something else or some other art, etc. Now, you can't help a person unless you uncover who are they comparing themselves to. So when someone says, oh, my artistic skills are the worst, or this person's the best, or anything like that, that's what we call a comparative deletion. And what you generally want to ask is something along the lines of, okay, who are you comparing to, or compared to whom? So, and when you get that information, sometimes it might solve the challenge, because then you'll be like, the person may say, yeah, I'm comparing myself to Van Gogh or something, I don't know, whatever. And then you can challenge it further. But you see, by uncovering that little bit of information, that bit of information, who are they comparing themselves to, is an essential step to further helping them out. Okay, there may be a couple more steps in between before you can truly help them, but that is a first step, because in their mind, generally, they are, even at an unconscious level, oh, my artistic skills are the worst. They are comparing themselves to someone, even if they don't consciously realize it. And to help them, you got to help them figure out, who are they comparing themselves to? Okay, so you want to ask that question. So that's an example of a deletion. An example of a distortion is someone may come and say, oh, that person said hi to me, but when they said hi to me, they didn't smile, which means that they don't like me. What they've done is they've distorted the meaning. They've created a distorted meaning. They have attached a meaning which may not necessarily be true. So you may want to challenge it and just sort of say, how specifically does this person not smiling mean that they don't like you, right? This is just an example of a distortion. Like, you want to ask, how specifically does this happening mean that, etc. And there are multiple examples of how we distort. But think of a friend of yours that they tell a story, and when they tell a story, they exaggerate a lot. That's distortion. Like, sometimes it's harmless. It doesn't, like, our brains, in order to survive, we all distort, delete, and generalize. I just generalized there. I said we all, by the way. I did a generalization, but we all just delete, distort, and generalize. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just in some cases it can work against us. And when we are causing problems, when we are getting upset with people for reasons like, man, they didn't smile when they said hi to me, which means they don't like me, right? Like, how does them not smiling mean that they don't like you? So these are the ways that we'd ask questions in order to uncover this sort of deletion. And then generalization. A generalization is when we say everybody, everything, all the time. So every time I try, I can never speak to people. Never speak to people is basically saying never. Have you never spoken to somebody? That's a general. And when you literally challenge their what's called their generalization, what's called a universal quantifier, basically saying that everyone, everything, all the time, when you challenge it and just say, really, you've never been able to speak to someone, then they say, well, no, I mean, of course I've been able to do it in this occasion. Then you're taking what is like an impossible problem and you're breaking it down. So then they start to say, yeah, but I mean, I of course, basically when I'm in public. Okay, so every time that you're in public? No, when I'm speaking in public. Okay, so you see what I've done is I've literally taken an impossible problem, and just by challenging it, by asking the right question, I've broken it down. And then I can break it down further, and you can break it down further again. So, and once again, this is just an example of a deletion, distortion, and generalization. And there are many more. But what I wanted to do today is just give a top-level overview of how our minds think, and as well as understanding that you can ask questions that start to uncover and start to break down some of these limitations in our mind in terms of how we've stored information. And when you do that, you can help people tremendously. And so, like I said, this is the meta model, which comes from NLP. If any of you are interested, by the way, in NLP, please, I do a webinar every single Wednesday. You can register. It's absolutely free, uaenlp.com. It literally just shows you how you think, why we do what we do, why we don't do what we should do, and why we do what we shouldn't do. I go through some of these in greater detail, but hopefully this has been useful for you, a little bit insightful. And if you have not, please do subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/Munir. Hit the subscribe button. I go live every single day. Other than that, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just an introduction to the meta model. There's so much more to it. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of an insight into, oh, wow, I never realized that we all do this when we think. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, and I hope to catch you in another video very, very soon. Peace out, one love, and I'll see you on another video very soon. Bye for now.